Hello, first grade marine biologists. Today we're going to do some exploring as well. We're going to learn a little bit about Antarctica, the land of ice. So to teach you a little bit about Antarctica before we begin, Antarctica is its very own continent at the southernmost part of the Earth. So the opposite of the Arctic. It contains the South Pole and is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. The Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans all touch Antarctica as well. The temperature in Antarctica, it's a tough word to say, can reach negative 80 degrees Celsius. Antarctica is so cold that people cannot live there full time. Only scientists go and live there temporarily. Only animals, such as the emperor penguin, live in Antarctica full time. As you can see at the bottom, it says time to think. So if you'll remember last time with our desert activity, we learned about animal adaptations. All animals have adaptations around the world. So what adaptations do emperor penguins, which are the penguins in the picture, have that allow them to survive in such a cold place? I'll give you some time to think about that. You can study the picture as well. Okay, here we go. Emperor penguins are the only penguins to lay their eggs on the ice. They're the only birds that lay their eggs on the ice in the world. After the female penguin lays the egg, the male penguin keeps it warm for 2 whole months. Wow, that's a really long time. He doesn't even eat during that time. So if you look at the picture, the male penguin is on the left, the taller one, the larger one, and the female penguin is on the right, the shorter one. So again, time to think. How do the emperor penguins keep the egg warm? Ice is so cold and eggs are so sensitive. How do they keep them warm? I'll give you some time to think about that. Okay, here we go. How cold is negative 80 degrees Celsius, you wonder? Let's find out in this video.
Imagine our world without sun. Male emperor penguins are facing the nearest that exists on planet Earth, winter in Antarctica. It's continuously dark and temperatures drop to minus 70 degrees centigrade. The penguins stay when all other creatures have fled because each guards a treasure. A single egg resting on the top of its feet and kept warm beneath the downy bulge of its stomach. There is no food and no water for them, and they will not see the sun again for 4 months. Surely no greater ordeal is faced by any animal. As the sun departs from the Antarctic, it lightens the skies in the far north.
Wow, all that super strong wind and ice and not seeing the sun for 4 months. Can you imagine? Oof, that must be a really tough time for those penguins. So the emperor penguins huddle together, as you saw in the video, to stay warm. The penguins in the middle of the huddle are the warmest. When they are warm, they move to the outside to let other penguins warm up. Time to think. There were a couple clues in that last video about this question. So it says, I learned how they keep their bodies warm, but how do they keep a small sensitive egg warm? In the video, it mentions something about feet and part of their body that they use to keep the egg warm. I'll give you some time to think about that. Okay, let's find out. So to find out how the emperor penguin keep the egg warm throughout the whole life process of the chick growing, here's a book called The Emperor's Egg, written by Martin Jenkins and illustrated by Jane Chapman.
Today we're going to read The Emperor's Egg by Martin Jenkins and illustrated by Jane Chapman. Down at the very bottom of the world, there's a huge island that's almost completely covered in snow and ice. It's called Antarctica, and it's the coldest, windiest place on Earth. The weather's bad enough there in summer, but in winter, it's really terrible. It's hard to imagine anything actually living there. But wait, what's that shape over there? It can't be. Yes! Do you know what kind of bird lives in Antarctica? Let's see if you're right. It's a penguin. It's not just any old penguin either. It's a male emperor penguin, the biggest penguin in the world, and he's doing a very important job. He's taking care of his egg. He didn't lay it himself, of course. Did you know that emperor penguins are the tallest of all the penguin species? Male emperor penguins are about 4 feet tall, and the females are a little smaller. His mate did that a few weeks ago, but very soon afterwards she turned around and waddled off to sea. That's where female emperor penguins spend most of the winter, swimming about, getting as fat as they can, eating as much as they can, and generally having a very nice time, as far as you can tell. Emperor penguins eat mainly fish, squid, and tiny shrimp-like animals called krill. Since they can't fly, their wings are more like flippers, making it easier for them to swim in the water. They can stay underwater for around 20 minutes at a time, which leaves the father penguin stuck on the ice with his egg. Now, the most important thing about egg sitting is to stop your egg from getting cold. That means it has to be kept off the ice and out of the wind. And what better way to do that than to rest it on your feet and tuck it right up under your tummy, which is just what the father penguin does. Inside the egg, a penguin chick is starting to grow. If the egg gets cold, the chick will not survive. But don't worry, the father penguin takes his job very seriously and will take good care of the egg. And that's how he'll stay for 2 whole months until his egg is ready to hatch. Can you imagine it? Standing around in the freezing cold with an egg on your feet for 2 whole months? Female emperor penguins lay 1 egg in May or June, which is the beginning of winter in Antarctica. What's more, there's nothing for the father penguin to eat on land. And because he's egg sitting, he can't go off to the sea to feed. So that means 2 whole months with an egg on your feet and no dinner, or breakfast, or lunch, or snacks. I don't know about you, but I'd be very, very miserable. The male penguins can lose up to 40% of their body weight since they can't eat while egg sitting. Luckily, the penguins don't seem to mind too much. They have thick feathers and lots of fat under their skin to help keep them warm. And when it gets really cold and windy, they all snuggle up together and shuffle over the ice in a great big huddle. Most of the time, the huddle trundles along very, very slowly. In the center of the huddle is the warmest area, and the penguins in the middle switch places with the ones on the outside over and over again. But sometimes when the penguins get to a particularly slippery slope, they slide down and on their tummies, pushing themselves along with their flippers, always remembering to take care of their egg and trying hard not to bump into each other. And that's how the father penguin spends the winter, until one day he hears a chip, chip, chip. Even though the males keep the egg tucked up tight under their tummies, when they slide, it sometimes rolls out and breaks, so they have to be very careful. His egg is starting to hatch. It takes a day or so, but finally, the egg cracks right open and out pops a penguin chick. Now the father penguin has two jobs to do. He has to keep the chick warm and he has to feed it. The chick is...
Wow, so as you can see, the male penguin has a super important job to do. And if you notice, that video mentioned the huddle that we were talking about earlier in the video. But what I'm thinking is, how does a penguin walk and move around and keep the egg on their feet the whole time? They go from the middle of the huddle to the outside. They're always moving and sliding on their bellies, and they keep the egg on their feet the whole time. That's amazing. Well, today we're going to watch an example of what that looks like, and then you're going to get a chance to do it as well. So in this video, as you can see in the picture in the top, that's how they balance the egg on top of their feet, and they use the little pouch on their bellies to wrap over it to keep it warm and using their body heat. And we have a video here of an example of what it looks like to waddle around and shuffle with an egg still on your feet. Pay close attention because you're going to try this after the video. As you can see, they take tiny little steps. Being very careful to use their nails to dig into the ice so they don't slip and fall. All right, now it's your turn. Are you ready? So now it's your turn to waddle around like a male penguin with an egg on its feet. Don't drop the egg, as it says in the top in the yellow. So the steps that you're going to do for your STEM activity are this. Number one, you're going to find a small round ball, a mini soccer ball or a mini football if you have one, or even a tennis ball or some kind of soft, squishy ball that you can put on top of your feet. Number two, stand at the starting point and place the ball on top of both of your feet, just like the emperor penguins do. Then number three, you're going to walk as far as you can and as careful as you can without dropping the egg. And as it says for number four, you're going to stop when the ball touches the ground. Number five, you're going to then measure with your feet how far you walked. Remember to touch your toe to your heel and count the number of steps that you took. Then number six, it says you're going to add the distance to the chart on Seesaw, which you're going to click on after this video is over. And then number seven, you're going to start over and try again. And I want you to walk as far as you can 3 different times. Make sure you're writing down your distance after each trial. So you're going to do trial 1, write down the distance. Trial 2, write down how far you went. Trial 3, write down how far you went. And as you can see, as you'll see on the chart, you're going to have to add up the total of all 3 attempts. Good luck!